Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook, and we're kicking off our 2013 NFL previews by taking a look at the AFC South. But first, we're going to give you our all-conference team for this division. So let's start this video off by taking a look at the starting quarterback on our list.
You have to give Andrew Luck the nod as a starting quarterback on this AFC South preseason all-conference team. What he did last year in leading that coach team to the playoffs was remarkable. This guy stepped in with all that pressure from being the #1 pick and being held by the media as the best thing since sliced bread. You have to give Andrew Luck props in hopes that 2013 will be even better than last season. Arian Foster is one of our starting running backs on this list, and when you look for comparisons for Foster, the one name that instantly jumps out to me is Marcus Allen. Silky smooth runner, excellent vision, and is a threat to score every time near the goal line. Chris Johnson had a bounce-back campaign last season, rushing for over 1,200 yards despite seeing 8-man fronts because of the poor passing game, and this is a guy that's one of the elite runners in the league. You give him a lane, he's gone. All you're going to see is the back of his jersey and the back of his cleats. Andre Johnson had an Andre Johnson-like season last year for the Houston Texans, 112 receptions, nearly 1,600 yards at 14 yards a catch. But now they get him help with DeAndre Hopkins, so look for him to put up even better numbers as you're going to see more one-on-one coverage. Like fine wine, Reggie Wayne's game gets better with time, and he did a great job last season making a transition easier for a young rookie quarterback in Andrew Luck. Still a big fan of Mercedes Lewis, and he's one of the better tight ends in the AFC. Definitely one of the better tight ends in the AFC South as he makes our first team all-conference team as a starter. T.Y. Hilton makes our list as our all-purpose player, and he did it all last year for the Indianapolis Colts. He returned a punt for a touchdown, caught 7 touchdown passes, and finished third on the team in receiving, and also contributed in the running game on end arounds. Remember when the Houston Texans had problems with their offensive line? Not anymore. You look at Dwayne Brown, one of the premier left tackles in the league, and is coming off a Pro Bowl season. Big free agent signee Adam Levitri goes to the Tennessee Titans to help bolster the inside of that offensive line and help out in the running game as well as the passing game. That's what makes him a special player. He's very versatile and can do both very well. The reason why the Houston Texans are like clockwork offensively, you look at their offensive line and the communication that goes up front that starts with Chris Myers, one of the better centers in the league, and his teammate Wade Smith also makes this list. When you look at their running game and how well they're able to run the football, look at the communication between Wade Smith and Chris Myers is some of the best run blocking in the league. Eugene Moreau is one versatile offensive tackle. This is a guy that can play on the left side. He did it last season, did it throughout his career, and also play on the right side, and he's going to have to do that this season as they bring in Luke Joko out of Texas A&M. Now let's take a look at our second team preseason all-conference team for the AFC South. You see Matt Schaub leads this team as the quarterback. As much as you can knock Matt Schaub for not finishing a season or being inconsistent, he's still one pretty good quarterback and has been for the Houston Texans. You also look at the rest of the squad. Delaney Walker, a new addition to the AFC South, but definitely is one of the better all-purpose players in the league. And I'm a big fan of Maurice Jones-Drew. It's tough that I couldn't fit him on the first team, but he definitely has a spot on this roster. I think we only need J.J. Watt on his defensive line. We can move on to the linebacker position. What a year he had last season, 20.5 sacks, definitely one of the more feared pass rushers and strongest defensive linemen in the league. I'm a big fan of Jarrell Casey and what he brings to the table for the Tennessee Titans. His game is comparable to the NWA song, Always Into Something. This guy is a very productive player up front. Tyson Alualu makes our list as well as a starting defensive tackle, a guy that plays out of position a lot. We'll see how Gus Bradley utilizes his skill set this season for Jacksonville. Corey Redding was a big free agent signee last year for the Indianapolis Colts as they were transitioning to a 3-4 defense, and he paid big dividends early with his constant pressure. In that transition to the 3-4 defense, that required Robert Mathis to move to an outside linebacker position, and he played that position very well, leading the team in sacks with 8. Even though he missed the remaining 11 games of the season, in the first 5 games, Brian Cushing was still an impact player for the Houston Texans and definitely one of the better linebackers in this division. No matter where he goes, Paul Posluszny will fill up the stat sheet on the defensive scorecard. This guy can lead your team in tackles, forced fumbles, interceptions, and he led his team in tackles last season with 106. Rarely do you see midseason trades work out, but it worked out in favor for the Colts last season as Vontae Davis instantly became their best cornerback and finishing second on the team with 3 interceptions. Since coming over from the Cincinnati Bengals, Jonathan Joseph has made 2 consecutive Pro Bowls. His career has really blossomed. He's been a very good player for a long time throughout his career, but he's definitely one of the premier cornerbacks in the National Football League, and his play with the Texans shows that. Now, although this is his first season in the AFC South, you can't leave a future first ballot Hall of Famer off any list that deals with an all-conference team. Ed Reed would help solidify the back end of the Texans secondary, making play after play in the passing game. Another new addition to this division, LaRon Landry goes to the Indianapolis Colts and instantly gives those guys an enforcer in a running game and someone that strikes fear in the hearts of wide receivers. Let's take a look at the second team defense preseason all-conference team for the AFC South. You see Jason Babin for the Jaguars. They're hoping he has a huge season coming off the edge. You also see Pat Anger, a big fan of his game, as well as Colin McCarthy, who's going to come back 100% healthy. You look in the secondary, you got another Texan, Kareem Jackson, and Jason McCourty out of the Titans, very underrated player, and 2 solid safeties, Antoine Bethea for the Colts, who's been a solid contributor his whole career out there in Indianapolis, and Daniel Manning for the Houston Texans. Quietly, Josh Scobie is a big weapon for the Jacksonville Jaguars, connecting on 18 of 19 of his extra points and 25 of 28 of his field goal attempts. The Texans signed one of the best punters in NFL history in Shane Lechler, who finally left the Bay Area and is going down to Houston where he can continue to kick the ball out of the stadium. Keyshawn Martin handled the return game very well as a rookie last year for the Houston Texans. Did punt returns very well, but it's his kickoff return skills that lands him a spot on his list where he averaged over 23.9 yards a return. Even though he's coming off a gruesome leg injury, I'm still betting on the side of optimism that Mark Mariano will return to his Pro Bowl punt returning ways. Now our special teams ace is Montel Owens for the Jacksonville Jaguars. This guy is always down the field making plays on the coverage units and also helps out on offense, so he definitely earns a spot on our list for his hustle. The key offensive rookie in the AFC South will be DeAndre Hopkins out of Clemson. The Texans have needed a number 2 wide receiver for the last 4 years, someone to take pressure off of Andre Johnson, and in the draft this season they got one of the best receivers in the country, so this offense will be even better in 2013. The key defensive rookie in this division will be Jonathan Cyprien for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're going to go with the youth movement in the secondary, and they got one of the better safeties in the country. Sunbelt football had to throw that in there. Cyprien is a guy that can be an enforcer in a running game and shows good range from sideline to sideline to make plays back deep. Now let's take a look at this coaching staff for this preseason all-conference. Seen some great coaches on this list. Gary Kubiak for the Houston Texans is our head coach. When you look at the position coaches, top to bottom, you have to like what you see. Gus Bradley as that linebacker coach. Jerry Gray as the defensive back coach. Offensive coordinator Pep Hamilton out of the Indianapolis Colts. Yes, this is his first season with the Colts, but I've seen his offense work. I've seen him do some great things at the collegiate level and also work with some good players at the pro level. I think he's going to do fine for Indianapolis. All in all, this is a very good group of coaches, and they could easily lead this team to victory.